Okay. All right, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Preacher Moss. I'm the host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. I see Satana laughing in the back. Satana, are we live? We good? Are we live on Instagram? Okay, alhamdulillah. Listen, everybody, when you're trying to work with new technology, let me show you how this breaks down with the Shout Out Show between myself and executive producer Satana Whitfield. Okay, Satana reads and goes to the videos, tutorials for all the technology, and I don't. I'm like, I can do it, and normally when I say I can do it, it usually comes with shenanigans and mayhem. So we have a lot to cover today. Our topic is let's decommission the Haram Police. Now we heard let's decommission the police during the George Floyd protests a minute ago, but now we have a growing problem, and I begin to talk to several people in the Muslim community, and actually also in the non-Muslim community, about this whole facade, the concept of the Haram Police. Now, I want you to stay with me and bear with me because we have a couple things going on. Last week, last Saturday, as a matter of fact, we had the janazah for Imam Hassan Sharif. May Allah be pleased with him. This weekend actually, I was supposed to be performing with the SoFlo Muslim South Florida Muslim Convention. Let me tell you how this works out. This is why this is such an important topic today. The conference had been scheduled for going back, I want to say 7 months ago. They hired me, they booked me, we did flights, hotels. Someone wrote an article, an Islamic folk wrote an article, and it got picked up by the local paper, that said that this convention was not a convention of Muslims celebrating family, celebrating spirituality, education, matrimony, none of that. It said that this conference was essentially a gathering, a conclave of pro-Hamas people. That this was just about pro-Hamas activities and anti-Semitism. Now, the thing that's interesting is the person who wrote this article, they got the ear of the people at the Marriott, and the Marriott canceled the entire convention a week before it's supposed to happen. Now, to say that Preacher Miles was upset and pissed off would be an understatement. That is not true. I was irate. I was to the point where, doggone it, if you want the smoke, you're going to get the smoke. So today is going to be a situation where people get the smoke. The Haram Police get the smoke. These people down in Florida are going to get the smoke, because I think there is a time when you deal with things delicately, but then there's a time when you take the gloves off and you just got to go. And this is going to be one of those points. One thing I want everybody to know is this has been happening a very long time, but I want you to know that people have been watching our behavior towards one another. People have been looking at how we treat one another and have figured out that there's a formula that if they can align how they mistreat us along with how other people mistreat us in our own community, that they can get along. They can get away with it. This has to be said. This has to be brought out in the light. This has to be talked about. Because all these things are all of a sudden beginning to run, and they have weird pickup points, if you will. Like, there is an issue that is growing. I personally believe that the murder of Imam Hassan Sharif is a tipping point. It's a tipping point. This is where somebody goes, let's see how far we can go with this. Now, my brother says 9 times out of 10 it's going to be African American that kills him. If that is the case, that killed him, if that's the case, brothers and sisters, we are in an extreme level of disconcern. We are in trouble. I've always said when it comes open way for open season on African American Muslims, you're going to have a problem, because African American Islam in its country, in the world, holds a special place. That being said, I have to talk about decommissioning the Haram Police. The attitudes, the efforts, the alleged alleged behavior to bring us correctness, bring us in line with prophetic tradition, it's become a bit of a joke. It's become a bit of a joke. And I'm going to talk, when I say a bit of a joke, I don't mean a good joke, okay? So today we're going to be talking about, let's decommission the Haram Police Now. We're going to be talking about this SoFlo situation because it has a lot to do with it. You know, I miss the eye test of people like Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I miss the eye test of Imam Warftin Muhammad. I'm upset with the people who question the eye test of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the imams, our imams around the country who see these things coming, but nobody wants to talk about it. No one wants to put them on display, put them on the minbar saying this is a problem. So we're going to be back. I'm going to be talking about it here on the ShOUT Show. Preacher Moss, don't you move. We'll be right back. Hit it! All right, everybody, we're back. Want to give a shout out to our ShOUT Show family. Sister Reed, hope that you're doing well. I'll try and give you a call after the show, make sure things are going on all right. Peace and blessings to you and your family. Thank you so much for joining us, Brother Altaf Rashid. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, beloved. Thank you so much for being a part of the ShOUT Show. Always checking in from across the border. He is, brother, he's a Canadian envoy to the show, always making sure that we have correction, we have quality on this side of the border and that side of the border. Thank you, Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. And we have my big brother Bilal Salahuddin and his sister, his queen, Sister Sonia Dalton Salahuddin. I'm so glad you could join us, brother. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And bless those little babies, man. Send me some of those babies pictures. Those things crack me up sometimes. My main man, Eric Carter. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All the way from South Carolina, beloved. How you doing? Thank you so much, man. And here we go. My main man, Roberto Rashid. He said, I can't make it tonight, but last week was fire. Roberto, thank you so much for joining us last week, brother. Anytime you can join us, the show is that much better. Peace and blessings to you and your family. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much. And we want to give a shout out, of course, to our executive producer, Satana Whitfield, of which, without her help, this thing would not go. We appreciate you, Sister Satana. Thank you so much. And my main man, Mark Manley. What's going on, beloved? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, beloved. Thank you for joining. Just last week, Mark and I had a great conversation. Mark, I use your term. We're not bulletproof. Muslims, imams are not bulletproof. I use that term. I called a lot of imams. So if they say it back to you, man, I'm saying right now, I use your term. Thank you so much for the loan, a very generous loan. Let's get into this thing about, let's decommission the Haram Police Now. Bismillah. Let me tell you what's going on with the Haram Police Now, brothers. There was a time in Islam and an African American community specifically. And we're not talking about an immigrant presence of Islam in the United States. This is African American spirituality, the black church expanding, if you will, to bring in black spirituality. And it wasn't Christianity. This was Islam. This was a foreign religion to a lot of people, but in many regards, it's a religion that's being rediscovered. It was taken away and it was being rediscovered. We can talk about the Ahmadiyya movement, the jazz musicians, we can talk about all of that. But let me tell you something that has to be said right here about African American Muslims. The miracle of African American Islam, whether it is the Lost Foundation, whether it was Ahmadiyyas, whether it was the Nation of Islam, Dar Islam, the beautiful part of this was African Americans finding pathways to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That the things that you would see on TV the pimps, the prostitutes, the drug dealers. You now had something that was not on television. This was a move to spirituality, a move to spiritual correctness. And that thing is pervasive today. If you think about it, the miracle is that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and so many people before him and after him, Garvey, they didn't have access to Al-Azhar. There was no, the different schools and different fiqh and things like that. What you had was a very living, breathing religion that it was in the street. It was on the street corner. We didn't have minbars. You had brothers that would get out and fish for new converts because they were trying to save their soul. This is something that's not out there the way it was before. I think Imam Qasim Khan out in Houston, Masjid al-Tawheed, he's always bringing brothers to Islam. It's a beautiful thing. But you have to understand that in this mass ball of confusion of white supremacy and, dare I say, Jim Crow and freedom, not freedom of expression, but denial of religious expression for African Americans was something that was totally new. And despite of that, this thing, Islam comes. You don't have all the books. You don't have all the understanding of prophetic tradition, but it was something in there that says, I've got to correct myself. I can be better. Despite what society says, despite the laws around me, I can be better. Now, what I'm saying is, that's a miracle. That's a miracle. Let me explain how I came to Islam, because sometimes people have very flowery stories. Are you a convert? Are you a revert? I was a convert. That's what they told me back in the day. I didn't know about revert, convert. That's what we did. Let me explain something to you, and this should put some of this into context. Many of the brothers that came to Islam through the Nation of Islam and then through the War of the Muhammad community and those movements, we didn't come with ease, brothers and sisters. We came kicking and screaming. Allah was dragging us by the foot and said, you gonna be this thing. Even my African American brothers and sisters that were born in Islam, talk to your parents. They came kicking and screaming because they were giving up the world, the one piece of the world that allowed them to go to something that even Jim Crow and white supremacy did not understand, which was the strength of black spirituality here in the United States. They didn't understand it. They still don't understand it. They don't understand King. They'll never understand Elijah Muhammad. They'll never understand W.D. Muhammad. Listen, here in the United States and around the world, you say leaders of Islam, they look like me. They look like Malcolm. They look like Muhammad. They look like Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They look like these were people whose gravitas expanded to the point with the Muhammad Ali, to the point with the Malcolm X. They didn't question them about their Akida. They questioned them about their efficacy. How can they be this successful and they only have a little piece of Islam? That's a miracle. My issue today, as I referred earlier to this whole thing about Soul Flow Muslims, the thing being canceled, when they told me it was canceled, they were like, we're going to reschedule. I said, no. I said, you don't understand. I said, if that conference is canceled this weekend, it doesn't mean that you're responsible or accountable for some type of response. That this thing cannot happen in a void. That you can't wait to 3 to 4 months after you've been punched in the mouth to talk about we're ready to fight now, or at least talk about a fight. In essence, these people who would deny you religious expression, if they could find the right laws and popular consensus to do so, they would do that. My point to be shared is this. We've given them a blueprint. Over the years, and I have Mark Manley on, who's a scholar. He could correct me if I want to, if he wants to. Mark, you can jump in. I'm not 100%. I'm in the street with my religion. I say I was a street dude. I'm in the street. I'm amongst the people. Let me say this, and I hope that I'm corrected. The idea of the Haram Police here in the United States is not the same as the Haram Police in India, or the Haram Police in Saudi Arabia, or the Middle East, or even Africa. It's different. Pakistan, India, it's different. Because the Haram police here in the United States, let me say it loudly and clearly, has been definitively anti-black and it has been definitively anti-woman. I said it. I'm not going to take it back. These are the problems that you face now. That when you see Muslims disrespecting other Muslims, misleading other Muslims, it hurts my heart. I said this to my friend Idris yesterday. I said, Idris, when you a convert, I said, you haven't had your heart broken in Islam until a Muslim breaks it. And he said, what do you mean? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Idris. He said, what do you mean? I said, man, and that's the first time I ever told him this. I said, I remember when I was a young Muslim, all I wanted to do was figure out the best way to please Allah. I have been drawn, kicking and screaming, leaving the alcohol, leaving the women, leaving the drugs, leaving all these things that were okay. They were legally okay. They were socially acceptable to become this Muslim, to turn the lens and go, I can't do that anymore. Kicking and screaming and got there and I was quiet. It's because now you have to learn. You have to relearn some certain aspects of your life, and you also have to question certain aspects of your life. And I remember as a comedian, I spent 3 weeks literally locked up in my apartment trying to figure out if I could still be a Muslim. If I could peacefully coexist with comedy and being a Muslim. And in the masjid I had gone to at this particular time, a true rumor had spilled out that young brother, Preacher Moss, or Brother Shamsuddin, that young brother, Preacher Moss, he's a comedian. What? Oh, stop. What? And it spilled out to the point, brothers and sisters, that when I went to Juma one day, a line of brothers were in front of the door to stop me from going into Juma. And I didn't understand, and I'm like, what's the problem? I'm standing with him. Who are we going to keep out? They're like, we going to keep you out. And I said, I understand. They said, you're a kafir, you mislead people. They gave me a whole list of things. But this was a justification, hear me now, for me not being able to come into Juma because somehow what I did on stage could negatively affect and impact the pious people who had come for Juma. Well, I pushed on through them, and let me tell you something. When June was over, if you wanted smoke, you got it. There was a fight in the parking lot, and I was in the middle of all three of them. But let me tell you how I felt when I went home. I was confused. I was hurt. I began to question the validity of this religion because I was looking at it through the lens of these people. I sent out something earlier today. Something earlier today. Some of you may have gotten it, maybe not. But the scenario was a woman who loved this snake. It's a big python, and she loved the python. It's her pet python. And then, she noticed that the python, who she loved so much, had stopped eating for some. It wasn't eating, and finally she took the python to the vet, and she goes. The vet says, "Do you sleep with the python?" She's like, "Yes. I've noticed he's been losing weight." He said, "Man, let me tell you something. This python isn't sick. This python is losing weight because it's making space to eat you. It is making space to eat you." And the Haram police, as presently constructed, has done the same thing. And this is not anti-immigrant. This is pro-truth. You can't come to America and talk about Islam through a prism and not understand that we are African Americans, that we are Latino, that we are Native American. Hell, that these are women, American women, African American women, who have gone through all kinds of trauma before you showed up. That it doesn't mean what you say it means. That you don't really want me to be a good Muslim. You want me to be an obedient Muslim. You want me to be an obedient Muslim to you. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the masjid. I'm going to tell you guys something. Preacher Moss, since he was a kid, has never been able to sit Indian style. Real talk. I can't sit Indian style. I have what's called inverted hips. I can't do it. It's extremely painful. Thus, I could either sit with my legs all the way back or I have to spread my legs forward. Here I am trying to hear a khutbah. And this brother's tapping me on my shoulder. Your feet are facing the Kaaba. I was like, dude, what do you want me to do? Turn this way and knock over people? I said, here's the deal. Allah knows what I'm going through. You don't know what I'm going through. Allah knows me. You don't have no idea who I am or what I am. But you felt the gravitas to come over here and correct me. Now, this is really important. This is extremely important. Because the Haram Police have created a misnomer that Muslims can be abused. That Muslims can be questioned about their faith. That if we don't have doubts, these agents around us are allowed to put doubts in our way. Imagine you have a wonderful plate of food. You eat your meal. It's a healthy meal. Then somebody comes with a plate of garbage and says, eat that. Excuse me? They give you food that's rotten. They give you food that has flies going around it. And I'm not going to eat that. And they're going to say, you're wasting food. I'm not wasting food. I'm discerning about the quality of the food. And just the same as the Haram Police, listen, if you don't know me, it's best that 1, you stay away from me, or 2, do your homework. And in doing your homework, you're enlightened with the fact that we're dealing with people who are coming out of a miracle, who have spirited through so many things. I can't tell you. Like, I was watching, a couple of interviews and people were talking about the spirit of the people of Gaza, that they've gone through all this oppression, which I agree. They've gone through all this torment, which I agree. Systematic oppression, which I agree. And they talk about how strong they are and they're resolved and that. And I'm like, yeah. I said, but hell, we've been doing it since we came over, and we didn't have the benefit of social media. We didn't have the benefit of any media, television. This is the gravitas of a spirit that travels. The biggest part about why I feel we need to discontinue or decommission the Haram Police now is that the people don't like us, who don't like us, have now found somebody in their mind that don't like us either. Let me say it again. The people that don't like us have found somebody that they think doesn't like us either. And if they can't co-opt that person, they will take, if you will, they will take the habits, the strategies from that person. See, the problem with the Haram Police is to be the Haram Police, you got to be loud. Your constitution is the idea that you're going to affect volumes of people. When I first became Muslim, I went to an event. All I know is it was Muslims. And the brother's like, yeah, I'm a student of so-and-so and so. I'm a student so-and-so and so. I'm a student. I'm like, what you mean student? Like, you going to get your master's? What is... And they were like, no. And I'm like, and I was like, that's your spiritual teacher. I got it. But then I said, they were like, who? I said, well, I'm up out of, Nation of Islam, and that lineage, and Imam Warfdin Muhammad, even aspects of Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. They stopped talking to me. They stopped talking like, what? Are you kidding? And I said, wait a minute. I don't know any of your teachers. I have no idea who you're talking about. I know who Malcolm X is. I know who Muhammad Ali is. I know the people I talked about, they're not just known here and that, they're known around the world. That their blessings are upon blessings because they took the time to define what it is we needed to be to correct ourselves. Do you know what it is to be in society that doesn't value correction? Do you know what it is to be in a situation when nobody obeys common sense? Do you know what it is to be in a room full of left folk people that just won't do right? And that's what Islam was in the early 30s, 40s, 50s. It operated in the worst of situations and conditions. And it would behoove us to understand that out of that becomes what we are now. That out of that situation, it laid a pathway for anybody to come in and engage Muslim schools and engage Muslim identity, even if it meant that the African-American Muslim identity would be pushed down, which it was, and which it continues to be. But here's the thing about African-American Muslims. And I might be wrong for saying this, but let's go and get it out. We never see a point, a conversation, a modality where Allah won't help us win. We don't have room for doubt. I said in an interview over in Scotland, I said, African American Muslims, when you become Muslim, this has to work because we don't believe in plan B. There's no plan B after Islam. It's just Islam. And if you begin to understand that, you begin to understand the strength of not only African American Muslims, but American Muslims who come out of that tradition. I'm going to give a shout out to my main man, Jabril, bro, how out of Charlotte, North Carolina. What's going on, beloved? Yeah, Jabril knows exactly what I'm talking about. Big shout out to you and your daughter, man. Peace and blessings to your family. Let me, he says on that. Thank you, sir. Let me even go clearer. And we're going to take a break here in a minute. Let me even go clear with this. That there is a resentment for the establishment of Islam among the African American community. It has been there for years. It has been there for years. People don't like to talk about it. I'm tired of hearing about, peace and blessings on Prophet Muhammad. May Allah guide him and bless him, give him continued blessings, salawat. But you ever notice when we talk about racism in the Muslim community, they say Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings, said that the black isn't over the white, and the this isn't over that, and the Arabs over that, and da-da-da. I said, hey, he ain't talking about the religion. He talking about you. He knew. He saw. There's a reason and a narrative that we have to understand of Bilal. He established a tradition, not only a tradition, but he also established awareness. This is what we're dealing with in our community. To too many communities around the world, not even talking about religious communities, there's something decidedly and definitively wrong with blackness. And we're going to talk about that when we come back. We're going to talk about the Haram Police and this whole idea is something is definitively wrong with blackness, but also black excellence in religion. We'll be right back. I'm Preacher Moss on the ShOUT Show.
Tarife Atar. The scent of enlightenment. A gentle reminder that air, water, and fire indeed are life-giving essences. Appreciate the intersection of time and luxury. Magnify your essence. Tarife Attar.
And we're back. Thank you so much. Shout out to my man Jordan Richter from Tarife Attar. Listen, if you get a chance, go to his website. Some of the best oils that are out there, I guarantee you. He's actually been on our show. We had a great show with him. He was talking about the whole oil business, the scents. Check him out. Tarife Attar. He's on Etsy. Check him out. We took a break when I started talking about something around the world inherently, for whatever it is, has deemed black existence, black excellence, black religiosity, black spirituality, black church somehow as definitively inept, as definitively not functional against everything else that's out here. And the reason I said that, because it allows people to give a pathway to I can say, we can get to the point, even in Islam, that I'm going to emphasize this whole idea of otherness. That you are the other. That I am this and you are the other. It's not that I'm knowledgeable and you're not. We can't do that. It's that my knowledge is far more superior to your knowledge. And to be able to make that judgment and in a very, very devoted way, spread that there's always this situation, and I can't stand it, that even now in 2024, there's always this mandate that the black community has to be saved, that someone has to put on a cape and save us. I saw something on the internet. It's floating around. Actually, it was on WhatsApp. My brother sent it to me, and it was a Muslim sister, and she talked about a conference that happened recently. Man, I'm not sure when it happened, but the former ambassador, Israeli ambassador, I guess this was a closed, private thing. They started talking about the big threat to Israel. The biggest threat to Israel, and he said it was not Hamas, it was not the Palestinians. You know what he said? He said it was black people. He said it was black people. The biggest threat to American democracy is black people, because we will hold you accountable. We will hold you accountable, or we will find an alternative. And we will leave what you do and establish our own things. We've done it with schools. We've done it with business. We've done it with education. We've done it with politics. We've replicated this. But to hear someone from the Jewish faith, an Israeli, talk about the most dangerous entity and it not be a Zionist target on the back of Gaza, but it's a Zionist target on African Americans. And somewhere, someplace, the Haram Police have done the same damn thing. Funny story, maybe not so funny. When I took my Shahada, I was already a practicing comedian. I was already touring. I was at 21, I had just gotten old enough to work the clubs. And you guys have talked about this. And I've talked about this before, just being young and going around and trying to hold on to your faith. It was hard. Trying to get to masjids, and you didn't have apps and things like that, you know. And I remember a guy walking up to me. He knew I was a comedian because everybody knew I was a comedian at this point in time. I was visiting a masjid in Wichita, Kansas. It was behind a McDonald's. I call it Masjid Happy Meal. Okay. But a guy came up to me and he asked me my name. And the guy said, he says his name is. I can speak for myself. I said, people call me preacher because is that the name? Is that your? I said, no. I said, preacher is my nickname from the kid. He says, there's no nicknames in Islam. Huh? There are no nicknames in this land. I said, I know I'm new, but didn't they call Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings, Al-Amin, the trustworthy? He goes, that's him. That's not you. You are not Al-Amin. And he goes, so there's no nicknames. He said, I don't have a nickname. I said, well, if you keep going, I'm finna give you a nickname. You're not going to like it. But just these things. And here's the problem with the Haram police. It's the same as the regular damn police. You're not happy. The economy of joy has left you out. That you need to squeeze on people who have joy, because that's the only thing that keeps you moving. Years ago on the ShOUT show, we talked about the economy of justice in Ferguson. And when they talked about Ferguson after doing a report, they said the problem that went down with Ferguson with the riots was that there was something that was pre-existing, that those people were oppressed before then, that the police were part of not just the legal system, but an economic system to keep it going. And the economic system was taxing blacks, youth, African Americans, young mothers, taxing them. Stories of guys getting tickets in the park. You park over 2 lines, here's a ticket. You're jaywalking, here's a ticket. Does this sound familiar? Does this sound familiar? It's the same thing in Gaza, but does it sound familiar? And it said those were the things that led to the riot in Ferguson. When the young brother was killed, he had his hands up, don't shoot, because it was the epitaph of what they've been going through for years. Don't nobody care about Ferguson. Nobody cares about Ferguson. I'm saying this because the police go, I don't care about these Negroes in Ferguson, because they come to work in Ferguson, they go to the suburbs. The Haram police, you come to the masjids, you come to the events, you come to these matrimonial things, you come to these conferences, you come to the comedy shows, devoid of joy. And the only thing that can give you place, purpose, and gravitas is to steal people's joy. Astaghfirullah, it's bad enough when you're doing these events, but you're dealing with people, man, that just, all they want to do, all they've been searching for in their life is this little piece of their life that's called Islam. And they're not going to have all the sunnah. They're not going to have all the fiqh. They're not going to understand all the seerah. They're going to understand that this little piece of joy called Islam is enough to get them from one day to the next day to the next day to the next. It's the thing that keeps you from going off the cliff. It's the thing that keeps you from having a mental breakdown. It's the thing from having you run out in a rage. It's the thing that says when times are difficult that I don't leave my family. Or in some cases, I'm going to go back to my family. You are, in many regards, Haram Police, you are disrupting an incredibly important conversation. When I'm having a conversation with Allah, you don't matter. What's more important? You know you don't matter. Let me he said, yep. They want free blacks in Africa. We're a problem. You know, and here's the thing. Because Sultana, can you put that back up, please? Because I don't want to miss the nuance here. Because Sultana's put something up that's really, really important. What she's put up, I want everybody to look at it. It's African Americans' problems, but they want free blacks in Africa. Here's the problem. And here's the point that I'm seeing right now from this very, very post. Black spirituality, the narrative of overcoming oppression has permeated internationally. That our narrative, if you ever go to other countries, Turkey, Australia, and they say you're African American, and particularly in the Muslim community, you're African American and Muslim, they step back. And the point that Sister Tana is making is that there is an example in a narrative when people can't control you, they can't kill you. Dr. Sherman Jackson, my good brother, scholar, he said America has not figured a way to kill black folk. They tried. Through legislation, slavery, they have not found a way to kill black folk. But more importantly, they have not found a way to kill the black spirit. If you put Islam over it, that makes it even more difficult. And the way they go at African American Muslim Islam and converts and people, Muslims here in the United States, is they send the Haram Police. They send you faulty information, organizations that are not aligned with my best interests, that are not aligned with my narrative. And we give them provocation and we give them status to do whatever they want to. You know what I'm talking about. ISNA and Labor Day in Chicago, it wasn't always ISNA, Labor Day in Chicago. I'm just saying. That was a compromise because the hope was we get together as brothers and sisters, indigenous Muslims, immigrant Muslims, and we be powerful. And what happened was we got pushed out. I'm not saying that things haven't improved and we're not trying to get back together, but that was the thing that happened. And the Haram Police are much the same as that former Israeli ambassador in that private session talking about black people. Because Islam inherently here in the United States will be a constituency of black narrative and black survival and existence. Insha'Allah. Listen, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have been excellent. Please, please. I'm not saying get t-shirts that said decommission the Haram Police now. But we'll be selling them next week, right, Satana? Hashtag decommission the Haram Police. I might even do that, Satana. I think I might get myself some hoodies. I think the time is now. And I'm going to say, Haram Police, here's the deal. I don't want you to think I don't love you as my brother and sister. I do. And I don't want you to think that I wouldn't take a bullet for you. I will. Here's the problem. I ain't going to take a bullet for you if you got the gun. That's a shout-out show. We'll see you guys next Wednesday. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm coming to South Florida anyway. So all you Islamic folks, I want you to know it ain't going to be a good weekend for you. Take care. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.